Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Passionista Nation Expert Interview Series. So happy to have you here with us today for another amazing interview. And the Passionista Nation Expert Interview Series is meant to provide tremendous value to you to showcase our amazing members that are experts that have great tips and strategies to share with you, and really, some mindset tips to help you create an empowered mind and phenomenal strategies to help you grow your business. So today I'm super stoked to bring you our awesome guest, Dr. Stevie Dawn. Hi, Stevie. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm so good. So happy to be here.
So happy to have you. So, today we're going to be talking about using speaking to grow your business. And I absolutely love this topic. And when I met Stevie and she was sharing with me what she did, I just like, oh my gosh, this would be a perfect topic because I personally use speaking to grow my business for many, many years. And it's such a powerful way to connect with your audience and lead them down the path to actually becoming your client. So I'm really excited to hear what Dr. Stevie has in store for us in this interview today. But before we jump into the goods here, I do want to give you a little background about Stevie, so you know why she's here talking about speaking. So, as a motivational speaker and coach, Dr. Stevie Dawn is focused on helping people to unleash unstoppable success in their lives, both personally and professionally. Her experience as a four-time business owner, along with her work in the private and public sector, allows her to enhance her presentations with real life stories and examples that are applicable to every audience. She has over 20 years of teaching and training experience and approaches every engagement with humor, inspiration, and energy to get people moving towards their best lives. I love it. So, some fun facts about Stevie. She is the founder of Stevie Dawn Inspires, the host of Crazy Bold Joy podcast, and she has a PhD in leadership. She actually studied emotional intelligence, and she's addicted to sharks, coffee, and red wine. I'm gonna have to hear about the shark thing. And she lives with her husband and family in Mansfield, Texas. All right, that's awesome. So, all right, let's just put it out there. So, what is the deal with the sharks?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I, like everyone else, I was terrified of sharks as a kid. My parents took me to see Jaws when I was like 4 years old, which was inappropriate and horrible. And so I terrified of sharks most of my life. And then I was on the phone with my mom. In my mid 20s, I was struggling with some things. And in order to motivate me, as mothers do, she gave me a little pep talk and she said, "You just need to be the shark. You just need to go out there and own it because nobody can do it like you can do it. And you need to not prove anything, just be the shark. The shark doesn't worry about anything. They know they own the ocean, they know they're the predator." And I was like, okay, sure, that's great and motivational, but not useful. And so I kind of ignored it and let it go. But then it changed my life. I just kept coming back to that phrase and it kept inspiring me and motivating me to be confident, to shift my mindset, and to truly own what I was doing, whether that was on the dance floor, in business, in my personal life, it didn't matter. And so it became a mantra for me. And once it became a mantra, I decided if I was going to say be the shark, I needed to learn everything I could. So I went on this exploration to face my fear. I've gone swimming, I've done cage diving, I've done all the things. And now sharks are a huge part of my life and have really become my spirit animal. So I surround myself with them all the time and they get me through the day.
That is so neat. I see all your cool pictures behind you. What a great story.
Always. Yeah.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think that's a great lesson too, because so many times we let fear hold us back. And
Mhm.
the truth is we all have amazing gifts and our inner brilliance that if we are just willing to get out there and shine our light and do our thing, we can succeed. So thank you for that reminder. So
Of
how did you
course.
get started in speaking? Tell us a
Yeah,
little.
so, I think for many people, if you're comfortable on stage, it's probably because you did stage work as a child. So I was in theater and dance and singing as a kid. So stages don't scare me. I actually feel better if I'm under a spotlight with a microphone in my hand. That's really where I would rather be. So I think that's kind of the groundwork for when I was then in work, right? So I was working at a community college and I was doing leadership development and training. I just found that I loved doing the training. I loved being a professor and standing up in front of the students. I loved getting to train staff. I loved going and presenting at conferences. That was just where I wanted to be. That was where I felt I did my best work. So when I was faced with the decision to leave corporate and strike out on my own, it made absolute sense for me to go into professional speaking because I felt like that's what I had been doing. And that's truly where my superpower was. So I left corporate and started a training company and a speaking business. And now, 7 years in, I still speak pretty much 2 to 3 times a week, every week of the year. So,
Wow, that's cool. So, using speaking as a marketing tool,
mm,
again, like I had mentioned, that really is such a powerful way to grow your business. To get out there, share your message. You're able to connect with your audience. Now, it doesn't have to be face to face. Me personally, I prefer face to face to get that energy from the audience. But it's just as powerful to also go virtual and really have your audience online, which really allows you to connect with people from all over the world. So can you share with us how one can start utilizing speaking as a marketing tool to not only get their message out there in a bigger way, but help them to build their business and grow their business?
yeah, absolutely. So I think the big thing is you have to realize that you don't have to be a professional speaker. You don't have to be somebody whose speaking is how you make your living. You can be a health coach. You can be a graphic designer. You can do, I have a client who does outdoor lighting installation, right? Not things that people would see and say, oh, that's motivational speaking. No, 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 right? So, number one, just realizing that everybody can speak to grow their business. It doesn't matter what your business is. What you have to think about is who do you want to get in front of and where do they hang out? Those are the two biggest questions. And we ask those questions a lot when we're online, but we don't always ask them offline. And I think that's really where speaking can really help you, is because online we always know that we have to be doing messaging and making videos, and people do reels and TikTok, and there are lots of different ways to share your message online. But offline, where do your customers hang out? Where do they gather in groups? And do they go to things that have speakers? That's where you want to show up. And one of the things that I think people have to remember about speaking to grow your business is it's good because it gets you in front of a whole lot of people in one go, right? I can spend 30 minutes in front of a couple of people online because it's whoever's tuned in at that moment that I press the go live button.
Yep.
Or I can go to a networking meeting where I have 45 people sitting in one room, all listening to me because I'm the only one talking. And that to me is going to get you so much more in marketing than whoever happens to pass by your social media feed. So I think it's really thinking about who do you want to get in front of and where do they hang out offline as well as online. Because I'm with you. I think I prefer the in person. I prefer the energy of a room and getting to shake hands and see people. But there is a lot of power in the virtual space. So taking your speaking and thinking about both online and offline will truly grow your business exponentially.
Yes, you said so much. So going back to, you don't have to be a professional speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people get hung up on the fact, like, oh my gosh, what if I say the wrong thing or make a fool out of myself? They get so caught up on having to be perfect, right? And really,
Mm-hmm.
they're operating from their ego, right? And
Yeah.
so, what I've learned, and tell me if this is true for you, when you can get out of your head and really get into your heart and think about, okay, how can I be of service today? And
Mm-hmm.
what can I share with this audience that can potentially touch someone's life or teach them something or help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And if you then take on that responsibility of being of service and just sharing your message, and even if you're able to help one person, it's still worth it. So when you get out of your head and into your heart and make it about the audience versus about you being perfect, things just tend to, become a little bit lighter and a little bit easier, right?
Yeah,
So, what are your thoughts
absolutely.
around that?
Oh, absolutely. And I do believe in the help one person. Don't try and help all 50. Like, they're not all going to get it. They're not all paying attention. Some of them are playing on their phone. Like, don't even worry about that. Focus on you're going to help one person. And if you help one person, then you did your job. You did your job for today, and that's amazing. What's helping you is the fact that those other 49 people are still hearing you and seeing you as an expert. Even if they don't listen, even if what you say doesn't go through their filters, doesn't really matter. They're still seeing you and they're going to remember you brand wise later. So help one person, think about helping one, and truly speak as if it is a conversation. Right? Too often we make it as speaking has to be behind a podium with a microphone, all this structure and formality. That's not really what speaking has to be. My most successful speeches are the ones where I ask the audience questions, where people dialogue with me, where I find one person in the audience who's laughing at my jokes or making a comment. And now we engage in a conversation that everybody gets to listen in on. That's really where you're going to become more powerful as a speaker, is when you're conversational, which means it's not perfect. And it shouldn't be, right? Nobody wants to listen to those people who sound like robots. We want to listen to people who sound like us. And we make mistakes. We tremble over our words. We say the wrong thing. We have ums. And that's okay. There's nothing that makes that wrong. It makes you human. And there's a lot of connection in just humanity. So I think being willing to say, I'm just trying to share with one person, I'm just trying to help one person, and taking it to that conversational level of everybody in here is a human. We're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. That's okay. When you
Yep.
take all that pressure off of you and really be from that point, as you said, of just being there to share, to serve, when you do that, it becomes a whole lot easier to be a better speaker.
Yes. One of the things that I learned too, Stevie, and it took me a while to really get this, because of, I guess, ego standing in the way, was when I was ready to be more vulnerable and fully share my story, which definitely means getting uncomfortable. Right.
Mhm.
So I always felt like, in the past, like, oh, I have to show up as this, professional person, and I always had it all together so they would respect me and, see me as that leader. But like you said, people aren't looking for that. In fact, if you are attempting to be that, and you're putting yourself on this pedestal, they're going to find every reason to knock you off. So if you do say an they're, oh, she said or if you say the wrong thing, they're going to get. But if you are just yourself and you're being real and authentic and being vulnerable, which means sharing a little bit about yourself, kind of pulling back the curtain and showing that you're a real person, and sharing some stories of maybe where you once were, and your struggles and your challenges, and then how you were able to kind of move past them and to get to where you are. Usually that's your message, right? The journey you've been on, and you've learned some, steps or a system or process or method or something now that you're teaching that can help your audience. And so, Stevie, when I was really willing to share again more of my story, because I had a lot of adversity and lost my husband, was a widow at 30, and had a lot of financial struggles on my journey. And when I was willing to open up about that, I remember the first time I did that at the end of my presentation, I had a line of people wanting to talk to me, and several of them like, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really, connected with it because I had something similar or whatever. And it just was like, oh my gosh, like this is what connection really means. But it really required me opening up, being vulnerable, getting uncomfortable a bit, but that's what makes you, real and allows you to connect with your audience at a deeper level. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, two things I think that come out of that. Number one, you're 100% correct. If we are able to actually share our human experience, people connect to that better. And that's an emotional connection that's made through hormones. And when your hormones are spiking as you feel the emotion, other people feel that too. Changes your facial expression, it changes your tone of voice, and it really makes you a lot more connect focused. And so I do think being vulnerable is super important. And when you're able to do it, you will see the floodgates open when it comes to people coming to you. But there's a second point to that I want to make sure everybody hears, because some people are probably there saying, okay, great. I see being vulnerable if you're a coach. I see being vulnerable if you are a speaker because this is what you're doing or you're motivating messaging. Hey, I install outdoor lighting. What do I need to be vulnerable about? That doesn't make sense to my business, right? So I want to take this back to marketing for your business,
Mm-hmm.
right? If your business is a product, if your business is a service, that doesn't have to do with the coaching, what I would call the softer services, not because they're soft, but because they are about that human connection. And so there's a connection that has to happen, which is why, to your point, vulnerability is critical to success in those fields. But if you're in a different field, if you're in a different industry, it may not be about sharing your story. It may be about sharing your expertise. And that's okay too. What we're saying here is we still want you to be human with it, right? Don't just give them the stats. This is what you need to know, but talk to them about your real life experience with those things. Why this is so important. Why does outdoor lighting on your house matter? Because it keeps you safe. It keeps burglars from coming. It allows you to be more seen. There's less road accidents. There's all this stuff that you can share. That's not your vulnerability, but it's expertise that puts you in that place of positioning yourself as an expert. So while I do think vulnerability is important, I also think it's important to think about how are you trying to market yourself? And what do you feel is the most important connection you can make? Do you need to make a personal human to human connection at that level? Or do you need to first connect as an expert that they want to go to solve their problem? Because maybe your industry is more expertise based, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that people don't hear us and think, oh God, well, if I'm not telling my story of how I overcame something, then I don't have a message to share. Because I think that's wrong. And I think that's put out to a lot of speakers. I have so many speakers come to me and say, I didn't overcome anything. I don't have some big obstacle. I haven't gone through something. So that means I have nothing to share. No, that does not mean you have nothing to share. It's just about figuring out where you need to position yourself to make this work for you. But vulnerability is always going to be a strength.
Yes. Well said. Absolutely agree. So, what would you say are the three things you must do to get paid as a speaker? Or I'm sorry, get booked as a speaker?
Get booked. So I think the things you have to have is you have to know what you're going to talk about. First and foremost, if you don't know what you talk about, if you don't know the information you share, you're not going to be able to get booked. So you got to know what you talk about. You got to know who needs to hear it, right? Because it may not apply to everybody. We like to think everything applies to everybody. And it totally could in the right situation. But for most of us, there are certain groups, certain industries that are more likely to hear and need our message. So let's make sure we've identified those. If you can do both those things, so you know who you talk to and you know what you want to talk about, then you can start actually prospecting to get booked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means you can start looking at where do those people hang out, what kind of organizations, associations, meetups, networking groups, Facebook groups, whatever it is. You can start looking at what those are and you can start reaching out. But the one thing that they always ask me when I reach out to somebody and say, hey, I talk to entrepreneurs about how to use speaking to grow your business. Is that a message your group would like to hear? One of the number one things they're going to ask me is, have you done it before?
Yeah.
Have you done it before? Where have you spoken? Where could I see you? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have clips? Do you have links? All these things. They're going to ask you for some of that data, some of that information on yourself. And so what typically happens is that scares people off and they go, well, I don't have any of that. Well, here's the thing. If you're willing to get out there and speak for free, you can have all of that in the next 2 weeks, right? Because there are groups out there who are desperate for speakers, who need speakers every single week, and they don't necessarily have this super long list of requirements you have to meet. If you are somebody who has a message to share for their audience, they're willing to listen. So you go out there and you get as many of those as you can, and you videotape them. Ask them if you can video them. Ask them for testimonials. And then you take all that, and that's how you get booked on those bigger stages. I think sometimes when people start, they want the big stage first out of the gate. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to have to speak on the small stages before you get to the big ones. You know, the first year that I did this for my business, so my first business 7 years ago was a corporate training company. So yes, it was speaking, but it was in the corporate arena and it was a lot more training, 6-week training programs, 3-month training programs. That's what we were doing. And I wasn't the only trainer. We had other trainers who worked for us. So I used speaking to grow that business of corporate training. And the first thing I did the very first year is I spoke 153 times. In my first year of business, I spoke 153 times. Sometimes it was a group of 4 people at 6 a.m. at a Denny's because that was their Lions Club meeting, right? Sometimes it was the Rotary. Sometimes it was the Chamber of Commerce. Then it was meetups where nobody showed up. I did 2 meetups. I'll never forget. 2 meetups in the same place. Nobody showed up either time. It was just me and the event organizer, right? I've done meetups with 80 people. I spoke anywhere that would let me speak. And I learned so much from that experience. But more than that, I had then so many clips and videos and testimonials that then I could start getting paid. Then I could start booking bigger things and get on bigger opportunities because I had done all of that. So start at the bottom and be okay with it. Start small. Go to your local Rotary. They meet weekly and always need a speaker. And every single city in the United States at least has one, and they are international. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is where I live, we have 65 Rotaries. So that's 65 people who get a chance to speak every single week. Do the math. They need you. They need you. They need speakers. And not a lot of people are willing to public speak. So if you're willing, they want you. So make sure you're getting out there. But you got to know what you speak on, and you got to know who your message is for. Then start finding those free opportunities and just offer your services. To Megan's point, if you show up with an idea to serve, you will always make that work for you.
Yes. And you know, the smaller venues or audiences, you know, it's such a great way to really dial in your message, right, in your talk. So you don't want to be on that huge stage and, you know, speaking your message for the first time, or even, you know, even if you've done it several times, you really want to dial it in and get super comfortable. And I just love your you know, kind of process and how to kind of stepping up and leveling up with you know, your audiences as you get more and more comfortable, and you're gaining all the experience, and you have then the marketing material to get yourself out there. So Now let's talk about how you can actually make money
Yeah.
from speaking. Love to hear about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so two different ways that I think you can make money from speaking. You can either get paid to speak, or you can speak and then get paid. Two different ways to do it. So, paid to speak means the actual organization, organizer, whoever the host is of that event, they are paying you a fee just to show up. That's it. You show up, you open your mouth, you get paid. That's it. Now, the great thing about those is, hey, they usually pay pretty good. You usually get in front of bigger audiences because a lot of smaller audiences can't afford to pay. So you're going to get in bigger audiences and you make money just by showing up. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to worry about being phenomenal at sales. You can just show up, give a good message, and hey, you make money. But those are hard to come by. And here's why, because that does mean the organization or the group that's having that event, they have to be large enough that they make money from it so they can pay you, which means that that's not going to be your local chamber of commerce or your local Rotary Club. Those places don't have the finances for that. So, really, where it works out well is if there's groups that are larger, associations, membership organizations, conferences. Those are going to be the places that are going to pay you to show up and deliver a message. And I would say for me, I probably have about 70% of the speaking engagements I do per year are those. So I have connected with these associations and organizations, and they pay me to come in and deliver a message. The other way is to speak and then get paid, meaning you speak for free. The organization doesn't pay you to be there. You come in and you deliver your message for free. However, you are able to then capture the audience in some way, shape, or form, and then you can sell them afterwards. Now, I will tell you, I make a whole lot more money from this side because I can sell 5 individuals on a $5,000 coaching program, and that speaking engagement, that 1 hour I did just made me $25,000. On this side, I don't have any organizations who are my client that are paying me $25,000 to show up and speak for an hour. Okay. So you can do either. And I encourage my clients to do a combination of both, because you get different experience and it gives you a lot of different places to grow your business. But really, the piece that I think more people need to focus on is how do you show up and speak for free? Charge nothing to the organization to show up, but how do you make that make you 5 figures, 6 figures after the fact? You're going to have to find a way to capture those audience members. You're either going to sell from the stage if you're going to pitch something, a program, a course, a book, whatever, or you need something that gives you their email address or their contact information so that you can connect with them later and sell them something at a different time. So it's whatever works for you, but it's think about these people have just heard you. You've just positioned yourself as an expert. How do you get them to then buy into something, either in that moment or shortly thereafter, based on some kind of connection you make? That's going to make you a whole lot more money. And that's something that literally every person on the planet can do. Getting paid to speak gets a little harder because it's less people who have the money, less people that can bring you in. You have to have a lot of expertise to start getting on those stages. So there's a lot more barriers on this side. This side, it's open to anybody. So no matter who you are, no matter what your product or your service, if you can get up and speak and position yourself in the right way, you can make money from that stage.
Yes. What's coming up for me as you're saying that, great opportunities on both sides for sure. Sometimes, and this I've come across this, and it seems to be an obstacle at first, but actually, if you know what to do, then it's not at all. But there's some organizations that aren't paying you to speak, and they want you to share a message with like, oh, we don't allow you to sell on stage at the end of your presentation. But like you said, if you have something, a next step for them and, way to collect their name and email, most organizations like, oh, well, I would love to offer the audience a free gift, would
Yeah.
that be okay? So, so maybe they're signing up for your, checklist or a training video of some sort, or whatever it is that you have that can, it has to obviously be, uh, coincide or be congruent with the actual talk, right? Or kind of a next step. But then you can also, in most cases, offer a complimentary discovery session or strategy session. So then you can schedule appointments to get them on the phone. And if you do have a $5,000 program like Steve is talking about, then you can, get them into the program if it's a good fit and a good next step for them moving forward. So, just because, a organization says, oh, there's no selling from stage, that doesn't mean it's not an opportunity for you to, get some clients. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, such a good point, right? Because it really is. I very rarely pitch from stage, right? What I would call sell from stage, because my lowest price product is $2,500. And so a lot of people, that's not going to be in their price range. And so saying that number out loud to a large audience doesn't go over well, because people are like, "Wah," So what I always do is I offer them something for free. So I may offer them a free, as you said, discovery call, or I do a shark call, because why not? So they can do a 30-minute shark call with me. And that is one of the freebies that I do. I have books that I can do as freebies, ebooks, checklists. To your point, give them something for free. And every place that allows you to speak will totally allow you to give the audience something for free. They just don't want you to tell the audience the price of something and ask them to come sign up at the end. That's what they don't want. They don't want the pitch, but they totally allow you to do things for free. In fact, you can also combine the doing something for free with places that pay you. And so you can actually double your money, right? Or more. So I've done that a lot, where an organization brought me in and they paid my speaker fee. So great. I still offered a free coaching call to all participants. And I had a bunch of people sign up, and I was able to sell them individually. So I actually made money both sides, right? Which is even better. But it's to your point, Megan, even if they say don't sell from stage, that's okay. Have a freebie that you can give away.
Yeah, so you're building your list too, building your audience, so you can nurture later. Something else that I've done in the past too, and booking like a paid speaking engagement for a conference, you can sometimes negotiate, everybody in the audience to get a copy of your book if you're an author, and you kind of then, charge that and like build that into your fee as well. So you can, get your book in the hands of all the audience members, but also make some more money. So I've done that too, and that's really cool.
That's another great way to do it. Yeah. Anything you can do to negotiate on that side will always help you, whether it's negotiating for books, I do a lot of negotiation for video, because I like to have lots of video clips of me speaking, not only so I can make my highlight reel every year, but so I actually have links on my YouTube that people can go see how I am live. And you can negotiate that, right? If somebody says, well, I go in and I say, well, that speaking engagement would be $2,000. And they're like, well, our budget is only $1,000. Oh, okay, no problem. Are you videotaping the event? Yes, we are. Could I get a copy of that video when we leave? If I can get a copy of that video, I'll take that $1,000 speaking fee, and I'll take $1,000 for that video, right? Yes. And so you can negotiate all that stuff. And to your point, as an author, and a lot of people who end up speaking a lot become authors because it's a natural kind of connection. Mm-hmm. If you have books, there's sometimes conferences and conventions and groups that'll buy one of your books for every participant, and you can build that in. And then you are letting every single person who showed up go home with your information. And that's going to be super helpful to marketing your business.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So how do you create a prospecting system for paid speaking gigs?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think people don't do enough of is really thinking about the fact that people who are booking paid speakers for events, they get hit up all the time for people that are like, oh, I hear you have speaking, availability, and I hear you pay, like I want to be there. So they're getting hit up all the time. And I think it's very To your kind of point earlier, right? We get stuck in our ego. And I think ego tells us, well, I contacted them and I went and spoke for them once. They should remember me forever. I'm sorry to tell you, but we meet a lot of people and we don't remember everybody. We don't remember everybody we see on stage. We don't remember everybody we meet via email or networking. You have to create a system to stay top of mind. And so one of the things that I coach all my clients through is you have to set up a system for follow-up to anybody you cold outreach to, anybody that you actually speak for, anybody you connect with. And you have to stay top of mind every 3 to 4 months. Because if you're not showing up to them every 3 to 4 months, when that conference comes around next year, they're going to have forgotten you exist because they've been hit up 3 or 4 times a week by other speakers. And so they're going to pull at what's top of their mind. You want to leave yourself in that position, which means you need a system because it's going to be really hard as you do more of these speaking engagements. It gets hard for you to remember every person you've met and every person you've spoken in front of. So you need some sort of system. Usually it's includes your CRM, your email list. Maybe it includes looking at your LinkedIn. Some people do follow up through postcards or handwritten note cards or any of those things. It's looking at all those different ways that you can stay top of mind for somebody and putting together a system so that every week you're reminding a different group of people that you exist so that when they have opportunities, they come back to you every single time. And that truly will take you to 6 figures and beyond very quickly, just setting up a system. But sometimes, we just kind of forget and then we don't do it. And then it doesn't work for us in the same way.
Yes, I am a huge believer in systems. That really is, I think, the only way to scale your business is if you have systems and processes in place. Something else that I was thinking of when you were sharing that, also, just simply asking the organizer at the end of your talk, if you feel you did a great job, like, oh my gosh, that was great. You can ask them, do you know any other organizations that might be looking for speakers? And often, the speaking world is very connected and they can refer or introduce you to some other organizations that may want you to speak, but then also asking for a testimonial or a LinkedIn recommendation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not only the organizers, ask the participants. You'd be amazed at how many times people will come up to me after a speech and say, hey, do you do this for other groups? Well, of course I do. How did you think I got here? Right? Like, I'm like, of course I do it for groups. Like, I'm here. You saw me. But they don't know unless you say it. Right? So on stage, I will often say, depending on the group, if it's a dynamic group of a mixed group of different companies, different organizations all came to this one place, especially useful at conferences, just say on the microphone, I'm always available to come and speak to your team, speak to your company. Just let me know what you need.
Yeah.
Putting that out there will get you more and more engagements. Right. And it's just a simple sentence. But to your point, definitely with the organizers following up and asking for the testimonial, asking them to introduce to other people. I follow up with organizers every 3 to 4 months and just say, hey, what's new in your world? What's going on in the industry? That's how I keep on top of all these different industries I serve. I don't actually know a lot about the industry, but because I connect with them and I'll say, hey, let's do a 20-minute phone chat. Would love to hear what obstacles y'all are facing, right? That then allows me to step on stage and look like I know that industry really well because I keep in touch with those organizers. And I'm hearing, what are they going through? What are they thinking about? That's how I choose my topics every year that I'm going to bring out as new topics. So just making sure that you're connecting with people, right? It is going to be the number one way to make sure that you get more bookings.
Brilliant. I love it. So unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but I understand you have an awesome free gift for our audience.
I do. And I think, Megan, you already have the link, but I did a webinar a few weeks ago all about what we're talking about today. How do you get seen? How do you get booked? How do you get paid? Right. And so it's 1 hour, I think it's like 55 minutes, but it's a 1 hour webinar, absolutely free, just to give you some more insight to the actual systems I use and give you some step-by-step processes to use. So if this has been informational for you and you like some of the direction we're headed, go check it out because it's going to give you even more step-by-step instructions. And I think you'll really enjoy it.
Oh, perfect. So if you want a deeper dive of the information that Stevie has shared, if this was resonating with you and you're learning a lot, then I highly recommend to take advantage of her really generous offer of inviting you to her webinar. So in the comments, we're going to go ahead and put, I don't know if I can go and put it in the chat here. I'm going to actually just jump into the group and pop it in the comments. So look for that. If it's not there now, that's okay. Go back in a few minutes and we'll be sure to put that in there for you for easy access. So any final thoughts, Stevie, that you want to leave the audience with today?
I think the only thing I would say is kind of to sum up everything that we have talked about today. Number one, don't let the idea that it's public speaking scare you, right? Just share a message, share what you know. And if you go from that place, it will be great. Make sure you connect with people both while you're speaking and individually. And the thing I always have to end every presentation with is no matter what, make sure you own your ocean and be the shark.
Ooh, yes. All right. So I would love, and I'm sure Stevie would too, to know what your biggest takeaways were from today's training, any ahas or breakthroughs, or maybe you got inspired and you want to be the shark and you're ready to get out there and build your speaking business so you can grow your business. We want to hear from you. So go ahead and put in the comments, what action steps you're going to take, or again, any takeaways that you got from today's training. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, Stevie, would you mind popping in there and checking throughout the day
Oh,
to answer
absolutely.
any questions
Absolutely.
we
I've
might
been
get?
checking in on the group every week. So I would love to get in there and answer any questions. So just tag me. You got it.
Yay. All right. And so once again, be sure to click the link to sign up for the webinar to get more juicy information about growing your business through speaking. And I just want to thank you so much for this amazing interview and all of the wealth of knowledge and expertise that you shared today. I've been speaking for years, but I've learned a lot, and it's also very inspiring to hear, how, just the opportunity that lies before us with speaking. I mean, I've been doing a lot of speaking over the last year virtually, but I'm super excited to get back out there with the live stages. So thank you for this. Training today to inspire me to get out there and make it happen. So I appreciate you. You're awesome. And I'm so grateful to have you in our community. And once again, appreciate you and your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. All right. Well, everybody, thanks again for joining us today. And until next time, be courageous, take inspired action, and go out there and share your gifts with the world. Bye, everybody.